over 8 months have passed since 3rd May 2023, the day when Manipur witnessed the alarming tribal solidarity march. And according to government figures, up until 15th of September, a total of 175 people have been killed in this violence. Meanwhile, after September, incidents of violence subsequently reduced, and our Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pande, has spoken on the security arrangement and the combined efforts which were made by the Army, Assam Rifles and all units to maintain the order in Manipur. Meanwhile, the question that arises is, what is it going to take to make words like harmonious coexistence and tranquility synonymous with Manipur? Well, before we jump into the telecast, let's listen in to some salient points from Army Chief General Manoj Pande's press briefing.
If you look at our employment in Manipur, it is in aid or to help the civil administration. And I would say the Indian Army units, the Assam Rifles, I think all our units have given a very good account of themselves to be operating under those circumstances. I think the fact that there has been no collateral damage, no casualties to, shall we say, the local civilians because of actions on our part, I think it just bears this out what I just mentioned. Of course, the challenge of the weapons which are still missing, which are still at large, only close to 30% of the weapons have so far been recovered. So the attempt to recover the balanced weapons in concert with other Central Armed Police Forces is currently ongoing. Aspect which at times gets overlooked is that in our army units, in some of our regiments, you have soldiers from both communities who sleep, eat, live together. And they have, functioned, existed harmoniously without any issues at all.
All right, let's talk about this with our guest, Major General Gigi Dwivedi, defense expert, joins us on the program. Major Lamtenthang Kongsai, defense expert, also with us on the show. Last but not the least, Major Muhammad Ali Shah, defense expert, joins us on the program as well. General Dwivedi, I'll begin with you, sir. Well, Manipur has been on the boil. 175 people losing their lives is no small number of people. In fact, even a single life lost within the country due to disputes which arise out of any classification is a travesty of sorts. But the point that we in fact should be focusing on is that this is something which has record. It is not a one-off incident. How do we place SOPs in prominent manner that something like this does not erupt again, because this does have the likelihood of taking the entire country in a divided manner, which it did when these riots and these killings happened?
Well, Vineet, let me start with a very simple statement that political problems do not have military solutions. And the problems in Northeast and particularly in Manipur is a political one, and having commanded my division there and spent good deal of time in one of the worst times of Manipur, sometime when I was there in 2004-2006. The issue is the problem is political and there are no military solutions. Having said that, now we now got to understand as to what exactly is the current situation. You see, when I was commanding the division that time, the problem was how to hunt down the militants, because they were having liberated zones and 40% of Manipur was under the militants. But today the situation is more of ethnic distrust and ethnic issue between the two major communities, that is the Meiteis and the Kukis. And this problem started in May, as you rightly stated, because when there was a move to bring in or to give tribal status to the Meiteis, then that's where the whole issue started. Now, current situation, and I follow Manipur very closely, is, yes, Chief is right when he says that there is a stability, but there is an uneasy calm because sporadic incidences keep happening. In fact, right in this year, we had two major incidents in More and also in Thobal. The ground situation is today that the opposite communities, that is Maitis and Kukis, the villages are armed. And as the chief said, that 70% arms have not been recovered. Now, that's a very major area of concern. Secondly, both the communities have volunteers who are armed and who are protecting their own people and their buffer zones. What army and Assam Rifle are doing, they are basically ensuring the buffer zone sanctity is maintained and the two communities do not cross over to each other areas and lead to more violence. But the point which I made right in the beginning, that this is only manning the situation, but it's not getting to the solution. The solution is how to actually bridge the wide gap that has now erupted between the two communities, which are never there because both the communities have lived in harmony. So until this mistrust is removed, until a political solution is found, I'm afraid that we are not going to get the situation in normalcy. Yes, we can handle, we can reduce violence, but anytime the situation can erupt. And therefore, once again, I will say we require a political move, political initiative, right from the center and the state. But ironically, the current dispensation in Manipur state is not actually capable of handling the situation. And I am afraid until we get a political solution, I don't think the situation in Manipur can improve. Vanit.
Major Muhammad Ali Shah, somebody who spent a lot of time in that part of the country. And Ali, oftentimes in the past, you have given solutions. You understand the topography of that area. You understand the demographics. And more than anything, Ali, you understand the people there. Why do you think, peace has been so elusive in Manipur? And how can we ensure that the longevity of, the status quo that we have achieved today with the help of our forces sustains?
Oh, that's a very good question, Vineet. Yes, you are 100% right. And I totally concur with General Dwivedi over here that firstly, it's an ethnic problem, not a communal problem. And secondly, a political problem does not have a military solution. So we heard Army Chief speak today, and I commend the Army Chief for giving a very, very crystal clear, crisp, to the point and bang on press conference today. I heard the entire press conference and I spoke on some channels on this, and it was really very clear. One thing I totally resonate with the Army Chief, where he said, the concluding parts of Manipur, he said, in the armed force, in the army, we have people from all the communities, all the tribes. We have, like, for example, you are yet to introduce, we will be having Major Lamting Tang Kong Sai. Also over here, my very, very dear old friend, we go back over 2 decades, over 20 years together, in fact. We all fought shoulder to shoulder in the army. No one saw whether you are Kuki, you are Maite, you are Muslim, you are Hindu, you are Sikh, or you are Christian, or you're Jew, or whatever. I mean, we all fought, we all lived together. And what the Army Chief said, they all sleep in the same barracks, they all eat together, they play together, they live together, they coexist together. Now, the very fact, why has peace not been able to come into Manipur till today, till now? And so many days have passed, so many lives lost. So many people have lost their houses in the biting cold winter. They are refugees. Unfortunately, they don't have inadequate woolens. But their heart is large. Okay, Vineet. Why? Because it has to actually, where I think what the problem is, it needs political will, Vineet. Honestly speaking, when there's political will, of course, and military cannot do much, unfortunately, because their hands are tied. You give military with the responsibility comes authority. You have to give the military, the army, and I must say the army and the Assam Rifles are doing a commendable job. Just yesterday, the Director General of the Assam Rifle, Lieutenant General P.C. Nair, General Pradeep Nair, he visited More and he took stock of the situation because there was a recent firefight between the security forces and insurgents in More, in fact. So the very fact, and he met the CSOs, the civil people over there who belong to the Maite community also, to the Kuki tribe also, to the Pangal also, to the Sikh community, to the Tamils, to the Gorkhas. He addressed everyone. And he assured them that the Assam Rifles will stand by the Sobrika, friends of the hill people. And I'm very proud of the fact that, I had served in the army as the ADC to the Corps Commander, where General Dwivedi was the GOC at the same time. And also with the Assam Rifles. In fact, this is an Assam Rifles tie, which I wear with a lot of pride. So the very fact is why peace has not been restored in Manipur, unfortunately, despite a peace committee which was formed, which was rebuked thereafter, which was rejected by the people. Because obviously when you put in a member without taking his consent, he'll be surprised. It came as a surprise to many people, in fact, who I have spoken to, who I know of. Peace, it is, see, if you give it in the hands of the army, let me assure you one thing, the army knows its job very, very well. And as General Manoj Pande rightly said, he addressed the issues of LAC, of J&K. But here, particularly if I have to stick on to Manipur, if you hand it over to the army, and I'm very confident of that fact that the army will sort out the mess within 48 hours, Vineet. It will not be, but you have to hand it over. As General Manoj Pande rightly said, the army is there as an aid to the civil authorities. So when the army is there and there's unrest, army has to be called. There has to be a requisition as an aid to the civil authority. Then you need a magistrate, you need maps, you need permission, you need several other things, and then the army gets a free hand. And then once an army takes it, that's it, khatakat. I can vouch with conviction of that fact that the army will clean up the mess within no time, provided the army has to be called in for that.
All right, good points there. Let me also rope in Major Kongsai into this conversation. Major Kongsai, you've been on our shows before. You have given articulate, solutions of what needs to be done. The army coming in and maintaining peace and order is obviously an option. In your perspective, what is the default option that usually and largely persists in the rest of the country that also should be available to the people of Manipur when it comes to this violence and this disruption of normal life?
Thank you so much, NewsX, for having me here. And I feel privileged to be on the side of General Trivedi and Major Ali, who is my good old friend. I'm in total agreement with my gentlemen panels. The solution lies with the political will, which is definitely lacking. Very unfortunately, I could not listen to the press briefing of the Chief of Army Staff, but just gist of it, which I just overheard it, no mercy returning back. That one is far from normal, that I should say. A capital of a state which is devoid of one ethnicity. This is what is happening right now. Imphal is the capital city which was shared by three ethnicity, the Meitei, the Nagas, and the Kukis. Now, Imphal, for the past 7-8 months, there is no soul of Kukis in Imphal. And that is not an issue in India. And it's a democratic country. This is very, very surprising. And this is very appalling. And this is very shocking. And separation of the ethnicity and by force and keeping the forces in between and trying to take that as a normalcy and limping back to normal, then that will be very, very sad situation. The capital, which is supposed to be shared by all the ethnicity and which is supposed to be ensured by the government, that is not happening. And without that, how can we fall back to normal? No, every day 4-5 flights move in and move out of Imphal. But no soul of a Kuki could land in Imphal for the past 7-8 months. And with that, how can you say things are normal? Things are limping back to normal. That is what I said. And I'm in line with my co-panels, General Trivedi and Major Ali. What is lacking from the beginning that I used to repeat it is the political will. If the political will from Delhi is very clear, this ethnic problem could be solved in a month time or maybe less than that. That is very unfortunate, and lots of loss of life could have been prevented Now also, I plead for the political will, and the intervention of the Delhi and the intervention of the prime ministers is the need of the hour. As soon as the Delhi realized that this could only be solved by the political will, the earlier Delhi realized it, it would be the better for the people of Manipur and people of the country in general. Thank you so much.
General Dwivedi, you have a great point. So, General Dwivedi, what about the influence and support and the expression of weaponization from outside of India? How is that also a problem? Which may have been mentioned from time to time in terms of the weapons that were used in this entire fiasco. It is an important area to be tackled, especially when it comes to China.
Well, absolutely. Whenever there is a vulnerability within, the external inimical forces will always exploit that. And that's exactly what has happened in Northeast and in other part of the country. But I like to make 3 or 4 important points. First and foremost, today the situation is much more murky than what was in my time, because that time we had very clearly identified adversary, that was the militants. But today the weapons are with the civilian, with the villagers, and therefore to disarm villagers, if army get involved, it will become very complex, very, I think, murky, and there will be casualties in the civil side. So I'm little skeptical of bringing in the army to disarm. Disarming must be done by the police forces, but unfortunately they are not capable of it. So that's the first very important point. Secondly, I think political consideration must take a back seat, and national security must take the forefront, issue. And today, what is happening is the political consideration, political interests, which are overriding the national security, and this priority must change. And thirdly, you brought in a very important point. China's shadow looms large. I have been to Myanmar and also observed the country from when I was commanding the division, that northern Myanmar is totally sinicized. There is an absolute intense influence when you go north of Mandalay, go to the areas Machina, Lasho, and the Chin state is totally under the Chinese influence. And Chinese are wielding a lot of influence in Myanmar, especially through the military junta. So this is one area which we have to be very careful. And if we go back little point in time, the Chinese have actually very openly, they have supported these militant groups like UNLF, PLA. They were armed, and there's an armed running racket that goes from China into Myanmar, into Thailand, along with the drug cartels. So the drugs and armed combination, I think, is very volatile for the region at large. My last point is the border management. Northeastern state or India shares 1,600-kilometer border, whereas Manipur itself has 400 kilometers. And this border is absolutely open and very vulnerable, because drugs, armed trade, everything is going on. So we have got to have very strict and I think very effective border management. So my points are, first and foremost, political solution is the only answer. Cookies must be assured that their interests will not be compromised by the Métis, and this big gap has to be bridged. Third point is the disarming of the civilians. Army getting involved will become very murky. And fourth, we have to keep a very close eye on China, because Chinese are always exploiting the situation. Military junta is playing in the hands of Chinese, and this can be a very difficult situation for India. Vineet.
Major Mohammad Ali Shah, the word China comes in, and there's obviously concern about how influential China has become, especially when it comes to the vulnerabilities which have been leveraged by them. How do you think that can be insulated?
Again, a very good question by you, Vineet. Vineet, see, the role of China cannot be completely ruled out. And yes, it has to be investigated. It has to be seen where and what and how is China's hand into it. Because China has always harbored ill feelings towards India. And wherever things go wrong in India, they'll be cheering from outside. So most certainly, like for example, you remember how we won this panel together where Chinese, they did a slamming slicing from Nepal side and they came into Pithoragarh, towards Pithoragarh, 70 kilometers from Pithoragarh towards Lipudura, Kalapani, Lipu Lake, was that side. And that's been Chinese old strategy. But here, completely, as the chief minister did say, he did suggest that it's external people have come in. But whatever said and done, whether people from outside came or it was an internal problem, whatever, I really think it is the responsibility of the state government completely to ensure safety and security of its citizens, whether they might be Meiteis, they might be Cookies, and thankfully so, the Nagas haven't jumped into it, and I'm glad and I hope there's a Naga host, especially they've showed great restraint, and I'm glad about that. I hope they continue showing that restraint. And one more thing, coming back to the chief of the army staff, since you are showing him on screen, he said the army and the Assam Rifles both together, they have worked in tandem and they have shown great restraint and in working over there in difficult terrains, in difficult conditions. And yes, and it's my compliments to them. In fact, all the panelists over here, the General Officer, General Dwivedi Saab, Major Khongsai, my dear buddy, myself, we know that soil very well. So it is actually very difficult. And the only way forward, even for military or anything, is when you win hearts and mind and you make the people feel that you're on their side. But here, it is not an insurgency problem. Manipur had an insurgency problem. Yes, they were underground groups. Yes, there was UNLF, which has now signed a peace deal with the Indian government, with the a truce deal. There was the United Nations Liberation Front. There was PLA, People Liberation Army. There's PREPAC. There's KYKL, Kangla Yaman Kanalo. There was a group called Pulse earlier, which was a very small group. Now I don't know what's become of them now. And so Manipur has seen a lot of insurgency problem. But now here it's an ethnic problem where two communities are fighting or peace hone ke naam nahi le raha kuch bhi. So now, and Manipur again is a state where it is different territories. Like for example, if you have to serve there, you have to know the geography, demography, topography, history of the region. You should know the area back of your hand. You should understand the tribal culture. You should understand the community culture. You should understand the dialects, because every tribe has a different dialect again. They have a different festival. Like for example, the Cookies would be having the Kut festival. Like they have Kut Queen organized every year. It's a huge festival for them. Similarly, for the Meiteis the Sanamais have a different festival. Similarly, one has to have a thorough understanding about the northeast part of India, which unfortunately, I'll just quickly conclude by telling you, Vineet, you'll not believe it. A few days back, there was somebody who had the cheek to argue with me saying that Manipur is in Guwahati. That is the level of understanding. This is an intellectual, mind you. This is a so-called intellectual. It is not somebody run of the mill. So when that is the understanding of some of our intellectuals, I am afraid, I don't know what kind of an understanding will further on be. When the chief of army staff, very crisp, very precise, when he puts things in perspective, a lot of people, yes, would, and we cannot neglect Manipur. And I'm glad, see, Manipur has contributed a lot in the nation building. They've produced people like Mary Kom, Mirabai Chanu, Ratan Thayam, who's a very renowned theatre personality. Major Lamting Thang Khongsai, my dear friend, a very gallant officer, he's sitting here. So Manipur has produced. Major Rajkumar Jaljit Singh is again a very, very dear friend of ours. In fact, we trained in the army, and he's a Meitei. And we never saw anybody as which village you are from, which caste, creed, religion, region. No, in the army we were all one. And as the chief of the army staff rightly said, in the army we only follow one religion. That's the Indian army. That's the country. Country comes first, always and every time. So the very fact is, it would not be that difficult, Beneath, if you really, when the will of the way, jahan chahe wahan raah hai. Agar aap chahte, if you really want peace to come in, you can actually, instead of doing jungle bashing, operate straight with intelligence. And when you operate with using your top speed with intelligence, I think the state government has to, again, like for example, I'll tell you, in Moreh is primarily Cookie dominated. Okay, Tengnopal is again Cookie dominated, but Moreh is mixed, I would say. Now there is Kakchin, very close to this Palel, and there is Kakchin, and then Bhobel influx towards the plains, the valley side. That is primarily Meitei dominated. Now when people have to understand, like Ukhrul is another district which is Tangkul dominated. Tangkul are who? Tangkul are the Manipuri Nagas. The Naga warriors of Manipur are the Tangkuls. So like they are Maram Naga, there's a place called Maram near Kangpokpi. So one has to really have the in-depth understanding. When I told you about this case of this intellectual who was arguing with me that Manipur is in Guwahati. So I feel really sorry to say that we cannot neglect the most beautiful land, which is part of India. There's a lot of talk about Maldives right now. How many people have explored India? How many people have actually gone to the northeast part of India, to exotic locations like Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Arunachal? Beautiful places. We must explore those places for tourism. Manipur was coming up in a very good way. There was Miss India held. There was an international polo tournament in Imphal. There were a whole lot of things. And 3rd May, well, I think that 3rd May was a reported incident that took place. This thing was actually, the tensions were brewing up before 3rd May, is what I have given to understand by my interaction with the communities over there from both the communities. In fact, Major Lamtang Khongsai would be a better person to throw some light on that, if I'm right or wrong. But that's my presumption. I think the tension was building up before 3rd May. Khongsai, am I right or wrong?
Major
Right,
Khongsai,
right.
Would you like to respond to that, sir? We've almost run out of time.
Yeah, I am absolutely agreeing with Major Ali. The tension was built almost 5, 6, or maybe more than that. You know, the Arambai Tengol, who are trained militias, they are moving free in Imphal Valley. You know, it is something like, it's a time bomb. When will it explode is the question of the time. And it's explode on 3rd May. That's the only issue. And I just want to add 1 or 2 points here. The present government under Biren Singh, the chief minister, is a part of the problem. And expecting a solution from a person who is a part of the problem, it will be a far too much. Because the ethnic cleansing of a community from Imphal Valley and the Meitei-dominated area are initiated by the chief ministers. So in that way, if the government is serious of bringing normalcy back into Manipur, the first thing and the first and foremost thing is the present government should go and a neutral body under president rule should come, and in that way we can expect and hope and normalcy could return maybe in a month, 2 months, or maybe in 6 months. Otherwise, with the present government, who is a part of the problem, who create and initiate the problem, could not, we cannot, and one could not expect a solution. And the other thing, India, I want to cry and shout for India. Manipur, as my friend says, a beautiful country, a beautiful, what I mean to say, a beautiful state where we used to live together in many, many years. People are dying every day. In India, World Cup goes off without any problem. G20 goes off. I think this is a bit too much that we Indian or Delhi could not be so numb and so dumb not to care for the cry and the tears of the Manipur people, especially the Kukis and the Meiteis. Thank you so much.
All right.
Vineet, can I just make
Absolutely, sir. I was going to come to you, sir. Concluding thoughts from you,
Yes.
sir, and then we wrap up.
Hello.
Go ahead. Go on, sir.
Yeah, I think the last word is that it is a political issue. It must be solved politically. I think armed forces and paramilitary forces have done their job, stabilize the situation. Now the time to take a very solid political measures. And Khongsai has rightly brought out that current dispensation is not capable of handling it. I think we need to go beyond and do not sacrifice national interests just for the political gains. Vineet.
Absolutely right, sir, and well summed up for the kind of back and forth that we've been having, especially when it comes to Manipur for the last few months.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.